The year 2015 was really good for open world games. We got Arkham Knight, Fallout 4, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Dying Light, The Witcher 3, Metal Gear Solid 5. Like, it was a banner year for the genre, with some of the most revered games of all time coming out in very close proximity. It was almost too much of a good thing, and certain games obviously were going to get lost in the shuffle. All those games I just listed were great, but there was one game that came out that year at the same time as Metal Gear Solid 5, literally on the same day, that really deserves to be revisited. At the time, it got some fairly decent reviews, but I think that this game is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. I should know, I did the before you buy when it came out, and you can tell I love this game. It took a lot of inspiration from a lot of different places, but managed to forge a unique identity that still hasn't quite been matched. When it came out, people assumed it was just like a half-assed cash grab, and going in, I thought it would be, but it managed to win me over in a big way, and while it's probably not my favorite game of 2015, look at the slate of releases that year. That said, I am always going to remember this one fondly. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, we're going to talk about Avalanche Studios' Mad Max. Yes, I'm talking about the tie-in game for Mad Max Fury Road. Now, that movie is fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. It is really put together in probably the most cinematic and beautiful way something like that can. And what's interesting is that this game never actually started as a tie-in for that movie. Originally, it was meant to not have any connections with the movie universe. It was just basically a standalone thing. It's just that both the game and the movie kind of went through development hell and kind of came out of it at about the same time. Mad Max is unique among movie games. For one, it's good, which is worth some praise because seriously, so many movie games are just bad. And it's because of its reverence for the source material while retaining the ability to tell its own standalone story.
But pain will come, much more pain, before this purpose to you is made manifest.
Probably the easiest way to describe the game is post-apocalyptic Red Dead Redemption. The world is barren and desolate in a way few open world games are, because most of the time they're supposed to be vibrant and dense, you know? Usually they don't want people to go, man, this is empty. But Mad Max's is harsh and very empty. It's made up of gray rock, brown and tan desert, the occasional shock of red from rusted metal, all highlighted by this very vibrant, colorful sky. At times it feels more like a cowboy game than a post-apocalyptic game, but you got a car instead of a horse. The visual contrast and a lot of the distinct landmarks dotting the otherwise desolate environments creates some of the most surprisingly striking images I have ever seen from an open world game. Art-wise, one of the most interesting open world games I've seen because it's so unafraid of the emptiness. It embraces it. And in doing so, it makes all of the things that are there stand out so much more. It really just has to be seen because there's so many times the game just looks flat out washed out and empty, but the moments where you see something silhouetted against this vibrant evening sky stand out in a way where it's just different from other stuff you've seen. Just like the visuals, the story, like also other Mad Max stuff, is pretty simple. The world that we know is over, people fight tooth and nail for resources on a slowly dying planet. The interesting thing about the Mad Max series is they never say what caused the end of the world. It's implied to be a nuclear war, like the standard apocalypse scenario, but there's this layer of mysticism and mystery to the whole thing that almost makes it feel like a fantasy movie or video game. I'm talking about all of the properties in the Mad Max franchise, but they feel as fantasy as they do post-apocalyptic. Like, look at Fury Road. It's pretty much a fairy tale with an evil king and a hero's journey and all that. There's also this strange, almost alien way that characters talk. As far as the game's concerned, especially with Chumbucket, he gives you this otherworldly feel.
How tough, how fast? Faster than fear, tougher than an iguana's gonads.
As an American, the many Australian accents used for the game make it stand out. Like, you really don't hear a whole lot of people that talk like this in games. Like, it feels really unique. Like the standard, oh, it's a different accent is typically British of some kind. But in the world of Mad Max, it's not a knife. this is a knife. I'm sorry, I had to do that. Like, you understand the impulse. It's definitely a stereotypical, not correct Australian accent, but I'm not gonna not do that. You play as the titular Max, a man looking to reach a place called the Plains of Silence, which he believes will make him finally free of the ghosts that haunt his mind. Like Fury Road, the whole thing starts with a sort of ambush. Max is minding his own business, but a vicious gang led by the amazingly named Scabrius Scrotus, like Scrotum, and his war dogs attack, steal his car, and leave him for dead. The game starts slow, with Max befriending a dog and meeting this bizarre hunchback named Chumbucket that I mentioned earlier, who believes Max is some kind of wasteland saint. Chumbucket agrees to help Max fix his car, and together they ride out to find the necessary parts to do just that. The majority of the plot is just about Max's search for a V8 engine, which will make his car powerful enough to reach the Plains of Silence. The fact that Scabrius stands in your way is almost secondary to that, at least in Max's mind. It's not until the end of the game that he finally decides to get vengeance against the warlord. To call the plot of this game bleak would be a pretty big understatement. Like Fury Road, in comparison, is relatively upbeat. All the friendly territory you visit's falling apart, people are starving, the enemy war dogs are shown to be the most vicious bastards at every turn. The world just looks so dead, and like there's not even a chance of getting better in any way. Like, even Fallout has a shrub or two, but this game's atmosphere is post-apocalyptic. I had to say it that way for it to make sense. Max has always been, at best, an anti-hero, but in this game, he's barely even that, at least at first. He starts off totally indifferent to the people's plights, and it's only near the end of the game that he really seems to care at all, and that's after a series of betrayals and tragedies. The game's tone is right up there with the original 1979 Mad Max. Very grim, very serious, and in a way that mostly works. And what really makes this game unique among its peers is that it incorporates a lot more simulation elements into the gameplay compared to what you would see in other open world games. Most of the time, these games are about creating and entertaining a power fantasy, but that's not the case here. Max moves slower, much more deliberate. Car handling isn't as responsive as it could be, intentionally so though, and handling can be kind of tricky compared to a lot of open world games. The car feels a lot more like a real vehicle with a lot of weight behind it. And in practice, it's not just a way to get from point A to point B, it's your lifeline. Not unlike the horse from Red Dead. Like a horse, you gotta keep this thing alive or you're screwed. The car's got a health bar, and crucially, a gas tank. And early on, it can and will run out if you don't plan your excursions carefully. The car starts off really weak and vulnerable, but as you go through the game, you can upgrade it with weapons and tools that eventually turn it into a rolling machine of death. It's a series that's famous for its vehicular combat, and this game lives up to it. At first, you really do have to be careful about avoiding enemies and not taking on bigger convoys, but as the magnum opus, as Chumbucket calls it, it gets stronger and it becomes easier to take on warboy vehicles. Once you're strong enough, it's so satisfying to smash an enemy vehicle into pieces because you can really feel it with the car's unusually heavy controls. On foot, things are a little more formulaic. It works well enough. Max is primarily a brawler, so when you take on enemies, it's kind of a variation on Arkham Asylum. Both games come from Warner Brothers, so at least that lines up in some ways. It's not quite as fast and responsive as the Arkham games, but it's probably intentional because it serves a specific purpose and feels really satisfyingly brutal. I mean, it's kind of desperate, the combat at times. Max doesn't get regenerating health, and while he does come equipped with a gun, you really never have more than like a bullet or two on you. You do eventually get a sniper rifle, but it's only usable from the car, which is another way the game anchors you to the vehicle. Speaking of sniping, one of the most interesting additions to the open world formula is scouting out an enemy base before attacking it. Bases tend to have multiple points of entry and defenses that can be bypassed or disabled if you take time to scout them out beforehand. Sometimes it actually lets you skip big chunks of the area by sneaking around the back, pulling open a gate with your harpoon, or something. For larger bases, scouting is basically necessary too, because if you take too long when approaching them, they'll go into lockdown and you won't be able to access them for a while. This mechanic adds a layer of danger to the normally standard active base clearing you really don't usually see in other open world games. And I don't just mean in 2015, I mean still. Like, a lot of stuff in Mad Max kind of slows things down, but in a good way. This game doesn't have the non-stop bombastic action of a Far Cry game. It's very deliberate, it's focused on atmosphere rather than excitement, and that makes it more like Red Dead Redemption than anything else, even though it's not really a lot like Red Dead Redemption beyond a few of the basic building blocks. Max is heavy, slow. A lot of the time you're not even fighting enemies. You're just looking around and scavenging items. There's scrap to collect, a few drops of water to drink from rain collectors, and sometimes you'll get lucky and find some gas tanks with some gas you can use to refill your tank. The process isn't simple either. You have to grab a spare jerry can from your car, fill it up, and then use that to fill up your gas tank. The same goes for collecting scavenge from destroyed enemy vehicles. They're just not automatically collected. You gotta go out on foot to the middle of the desert and pick up what you need off the ground. I really like the slower pace. It could be a disaster, but this is so context perfect. Like, survival in a post-apocalypse shouldn't be easy, and in this specific game, it just never feels tedious, to me at least. I'm sure to somebody out there it does. But I think the slowness really adds to the experience here. It's almost encouraging you to stop and take in your environment and surroundings, even at their most desolate. It's a game that really wants you to feel like a survivor, not a superhero. You're just a dude who is barely scraping by. Like, by the end of it, yes, you will have basically single-handedly dismantled an entire evil army, but even as you get stronger, the feeling of desperation really never goes away. That whole experience itself doesn't feel like a power fantasy. It feels like white-knuckling it the whole time. And I want to stress that I don't think that it's never not tedious. It does sometimes feel tedious. But, I mean, there's a lot of open world games that are paced much faster that feel significantly more tedious. They run out of quote-unquote new content pretty quick, but here it's not so much like that. You end up spending a lot of time in this game wandering through ruins, clearing out enemies, taking out convoys. There's some other activities like races and bomb disarming, but your main goal is always taking out the top dogs in each area by going through their strongholds and killing them in combat. One really standout feature are these randomly occurring wasteland storms, which knock your car around and hurl large chunks of debris, and if they hit your car, that can really be a problem. There's a reason to go into them though, because you find crates in the middle of the storm, and if you grab one and get out, you can take it back to your stronghold and they can have some pretty big rewards in them. So there's actually a kind of cool little risk reward system for going in there. It's rare that the weather ever really matters in an open world game, but these storms are legit dangerous and really cool looking. So for a lot of the game, when you see one coming, you want to look, but you're also probably going to book it for the nearest safe house. All in all, Mad Max is a game that's really more than the sum of its parts. Gameplay-wise, it can be slow and appear kind of formulaic. The actual content of the story, like I said, are kind of basic. It's not stuff we haven't seen before, but the world design carries it. Somehow they managed to take a map that's mostly empty desert and make it feel varied and unique in a way that not a lot of games manage. The grim story, the haunting presentation, and the very deliberate gameplay might not be everyone's cup of tea, but man, in my opinion, and for those of us who like a good post-apocalyptic game, this one is a standout. It's also kind of crazy. Avalanche put out 2 open world games in 1 year, Mad Max and Just Cause 3, and somehow the Forgotten Movie tie-in is the better game of the two. It's this game that's just fun to come back to and drive around, take in sights, experience the vibes for a little bit. At the end of the day, it's neither the gameplay or the story that really make it stick for me, it's the setting. The best open world games really make you feel like you're part of the world, and this game accomplishes that with this desolate beauty. It was underrated from the start. I assure you, go back to my before you buy on this one. I was one of the few voices championing it, but I rightfully championed it, in my opinion at least. It stands up today, and I do think that there are at least more people who are kind of finding a new appreciation for it, and of course, I think that's totally warranted.
And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.